Hey everyone, I'm Chloe Coscarelli, and I hope you're hungry because today we're going to uncover some of the city's most delicious eats. You may know me as the chef behind my new restaurant, Chloe on Bleecker Street. But today, I'm not just cooking, I'm eating my way through the city with a special guest. Let me introduce you to Louis Bullard, a passionate animal rights advocate and dedicated vegan like me. Hi Louis, how are you?
Hey Chloe, I can't wait to try out all these great food spots you've been raving about.
I'm so excited. I'm going to take you to some of my favorite spots in New York City.
Lead the way, chef.
In this episode, we're about to embark on a culinary adventure through New York's evolving vegan landscape, exploring everything from casual eateries to elegant dining establishments, from classic American fare to sophisticated French cuisine.
So good.
Are you ready? Let's dive in. My vegan journey spans over 2 decades. The revelation about factory farming practices and animal cruelty prompted my transition. When I started creating meals without any animal products, I discovered a whole new world of flavors that surpassed my expectations, and I've been passionate about vegan cuisine ever since. My mission to share the joy of vegan cooking led me to become a professional chef. For here to go.
To go.
I'm going to meet my friend Louis Bullard, a prominent advocate for animal rights. He currently spearheads the strategy for farm animal welfare at Open Philanthropy and has directed over $400 million to groups around the world fighting for stronger farm animal welfare policies and alternatives to factory farmed meat. I'm taking Louis to experience my newest venture, Chloe. 9 years after my first opening, I'm back with renewed energy. We're serving beloved classics alongside some exciting new creations. And look, speaking of Louis, there he is. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
my new restaurant. Do you want to come down in the kitchen and check out what we're cooking?
Yes, I'd love to see it.
All right, let's do it. This is our bakery area. Chef Ellie, Chef Stephanie. This is where we make all the bakery delicious treats. It's a small space, so watch your head. All right, this is what it's like in New York City kitchen.
Totally. What inspired you to create Chloe, the restaurant?
I wanted to create a place that people could really rely on to have like a healthy, delicious vegan meal. In my personal life, I've had people say to me like, oh, I could go vegan if you cooked for me every day, but I could never do it. And so I was like, well, how can I make a business where I can cook for people every day? And that's when I thought of like this idea of a casual restaurant where people could come every day and have a great meal, and it happens to be vegan. Why did you become vegan?
I became vegan over 20 years ago as well, actually.
Wow,
And it was a similar,
same timeline.
yeah, same timeline. It was a similar story of seeing the way factory farms treat animals,
Really?
and just feeling like I couldn't justify being part of that,
Yeah.
and wanted to eat food that I felt was going to be more ethical and better for me. What are the stereotypes of vegan food that you're hoping to tackle?
So many. Okay. I feel like people think that vegan food sometimes is like fake food. So we work really hard on our menu to make sure that everything comes from natural ingredients to kind of counter that stereotype. I also try to make my food like as colorful as possible so people can see it and be like, oh, like this looks like something that's grown from the earth. In our burger meat, it's made out of roasted portobello mushrooms, toasted walnuts that we pulse finely and crumble to give it some texture, caramelized onions to make it kind of juicy, and lots of herbs and spices like fresh scallions, fresh parsley, lots of different seasoning. And then we top it with a seasoning house blend that we make, which is made with some smoked paprika, which gives it that charred flavor.
It smells delicious.
Are we ready? Let's do this. And we're really proud of our burger that you can like see the actual plant-based ingredients in it. So you see the veggies. I think that's another stereotype sometimes with vegan food is people feel like, well, I don't know what I'm eating because it doesn't make sense to them if they're not used to vegan cooking.
Sure.
So we try to make our food so that if you look at it, you can see what vegetables and plants you're eating.
Totally. It's delicious. So good. Yeah. I love it's like whole vegetables, whole beans, but it tastes so indulgent.
As an animal rights activist, what have you learned about factory farming that helped factor into your decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just learned the scale of the system. That, everyone thinks the meat they get is from a local farm where they do things better.
Right?
But really, it's everywhere. They probably got their meat from the same few factory farms, and they're just these giant industrial operations where, I think we all kind of have a sense of how badly they treat the animals there. So, yeah, I think to me it's just the pervasiveness that so much of our food system relies on these factory farms.
I know. I had a friend recently say something like, well, I only buy free range or something. I knew that couldn't quite mean what they think it means, but I didn't know exactly what to say.
There are some farms that do things better, but
okay.
but it's just so rare and it's so hard to find, and so it's most of the time when people think they're getting that, they're not. It's they're just kind of deluding themselves.
And then how would an average consumer like you or me even know, even be able to know from looking at a package what their practices are?
It's so hard. That's right. I think I think there are farmers markets where we can actually talk to farmers, but if you're just going to a restaurant or you're going to a big supermarket, it's really, really hard to know what you're getting. Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm curious what you've observed about the vegan food movement and the space, and what's most exciting to you right now.
As a vegan consumer, what makes me the most excited is when I just see all different kinds of options. I feel like, I'm sure you remember, there was a time where there was a certain amount of options and those were our options, or the types of places we could eat, or the types of food we could grab. But now I feel like there's nothing that I can't eat vegan. Whether it's fine dining or super fast and convenient and casual, it seems like every type of service style of restaurant, there's a vegan option now. When you go to the grocery store, I don't think there's anything on the shelf where there's not also a vegan counterpart. So I feel pretty lucky to be vegan now.
You've been a leader in making vegan cooking mainstream. How did you overcome the original perceptions of veganism, the getting awareness around what vegan food can be?
I feel like every day at work, I'm talking to customers, I'm interacting with people, and I'm hopefully opening their eyes to how delicious vegan food can be. We actually get quite a bit of customers that come in and eat here regularly that I don't even know if they really know that it's vegan, they just know that it's good food. I once overheard someone ordering their burger and they said, oh, and can I have one of them rare and one of them medium? And I was like, oh, you know that it's plant-based here. And they were happy because then they didn't have to worry about how it's cooked. But I do think that in general, when you're trying to reach the mainstream, people do gravitate towards food that is enticing and is delicious. So I think if you can focus on those things, it's an easier way to get them to try a vegan version.
You've been vegan a long time. I'm curious if what you've seen of the stigmas about vegans as a group, and if you see any of those stigmas changing or eroding.
I mean, I feel like sometimes in TV shows or comedian stand-up will get a little dig at people who are vegan being intense. But I really think at the end of the day, it's just being passionate about something and wanting more people to try it. We try to create an environment here at my new restaurant where it's everybody's welcome. Hi, welcome. Hi. No matter what your diet is, we welcome everyone to try it out. So what are the different eras of vegan food that you've observed?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it as kind of three waves. There was the first wave of kind of crunchy food. There was the Whole Food stores, and vegans would go to the health stores. Then we had the kind of imitation phase, where it's everything needs to be imitation meat, imitation cheese, all these things, which I think would be great for a certain set of people. It seems like the third era we're in now is more plant forward and is leading with ingredients, sort of fresh ingredients, doing creative things with vegetables.
The USDA has approved cell-cultivated meat to be sold to the public for the first time. Cultivated meat producers now getting the green light to begin commercially selling their chicken, not raised on a farm, but in a facility.
We may be about to enter a fourth era soon as well, which is with the arrival of cultivated meat, where they're growing meat. And of course, some people won't even think of this as vegan because it will be meat. But I think for those of us who care about not doing harm to animals, it will be meat that doesn't involve doing harm to animals.
Give us the scoop, because where are we at on cultivated meat? I heard we got a lot to do on the science side. So tell us now, as a chef, where are we on the timeline?
Yeah, we were right at the start. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, you've probably seen there are a couple of proofs of concept. There are these initial products being served in 1 or 2 restaurants, but they've got a lot of work to do in bringing costs down, in scaling production up, and getting it all right. So I think it's going to be years, maybe decades, before we see this really becoming a more mainstream phenomenon.
Interesting. The developments in cultivated meat technology are fascinating. As a chef, I'm intrigued to see how this new option will transform our dining landscape. All right, are you ready for the next stop? I'm gonna take you to one of my favorite vegan restaurants. And it's actually a neighbor of mine. It's just a couple blocks down, and it's all vegan French.
Wow, I'm excited to check it out.
Delice and Sarrasin is a charming family restaurant owned by my friend Christophe Caron. His mother serves as the head chef, and here's an interesting tidbit. After Christophe embraced veganism, his entire family followed his lead. We should definitely ask him about that story later.
Coq au vin is a really traditional dish in French cuisine. Coq au vin, which means roast in wine, it's a marinated dish, so it takes a long time. You have to start the day before. It's at least minimum 24 hours of marinade. Wow. You need a really thick red wine. Not every wine are thick. We use Pinot. As you can see the color, you cannot see through because it's thick. Wow. Yeah, it's super important to cook with, at least for the beef bourguignon and the coq au vin, to cook with something thick, because when it cooks away, you don't want it to become water. It will become saucy, but you know. And then what's important is the time that it stays waiting to be cooked, because that's when it soaks all the spices. And there's lots of spices in the coq au vin, a lot. So those, we make those chicken legs out of texturized pea protein. And
Wow,
so why?
you use all of that wine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, it's pure wine. Yeah. It's not cut with water, which in regular non-vegan traditional coq au vin restaurant, the way they do it, they mix it with water because, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But it's really watery if you don't, if you cut it with water.
Right.
And you don't want this, you want the thickness of it, which you will see. So in that marinade, when we introduce the texturized pea protein chicken legs, we like that texture because it's the only way to taste all the sauce. If you use seitan or even soy, it doesn't really penetrate deep. That's why we like peas. So we usually always start this right before we close, the day before.
Yeah.
So it sits overnight, and we do this pretty much every day.
This is incredible. It's really like a whole art that you've perfected.
We haven't invented anything, we just veganize it.
Yeah, it feels like eating here. It's about the food, but it's also just like a very special experience, and all the little details add up.
What brought you to New York?
Work.
Was that the restaurant initially, or was that?
No. I came here as a model, actually.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I got. Do you?
How does modeling and running a restaurant go together?
Mess. It doesn't go together. It doesn't go together. In modeling, you have to be ready now. They call you, you have to go now. And it's not to go in the city. You have to take a plane and go to the other side of the country now,
So your modeling career is over now?
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, now I have other endeavor, but it's okay.
What was your experience opening a vegan restaurant in New York City? What kind of challenges did you encounter along the way?
I think the concept that we have, just because we're French, it's complicated for people to understand that French and vegan goes together. The fun part was that we got so many people that had no idea that what we were eating was vegan. And sometimes for years, we had people that said, oh, my friend called me and they told me I ate at your restaurant and it was vegan, but no, I told them I had chicken. And I'm like, when we cook away the wine, the alcohol goes away. So in the kitchen, everybody gets drunk. It goes into it, so we're like, but it's important to say that there's no more alcohol remaining in the dish. Once you take the alcohol, only the flavor of the grape remains. My mom was very traditional in terms of cuisine, and she said, it's really important to respect the regular culinary gastronomy rule, especially for people that know about food. My mom was a doctor and she was a cancer surgeon. When I told her I was vegan, she wanted to do her own tests. And so she said, okay, let's bring a few things to the lab. Raw fish, organic fish, cooked fish, raw meat, organic meat, cooked meat. When the result came, which took about 15 days, and when it takes 15 days from a lab, you know that there's things that are not finding, that is not something is fishy, literally.
Literally, yeah.
And the result was so horrible. Whatever you eat, organic or not, there's no difference, first of all, at least in those results. And the funny part that really converted the entire family was that once you cook it, there's nothing else remaining. So there was nothing in the cooked ingredient, in the cooked animal product, nothing remaining. So to a point that what do we eat this, put it in our body for no reason.
Yeah.
It doesn't give us anything. And then that's it. My mom said, okay. So that's what converted everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The escargot, I'm sure you know, it's supposed to be snail.
Yeah.
Oyster mushrooms has that peculiar texture that mimic really well the texture of a snail, which is chewy enough to not be too chewy.
Yeah.
You know? And the way we cook it is with a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc, the white wine, just to bring out the flavor of the mushroom. And then with olive oil, and then we do cashew coconut butter. It's one of those dishes that you just want more and more.
Yeah, I could eat like a whole bowl.
So as you see, the wine is still very dark. Of course, with all the spices, it's not as dark. It became a little bit brownish. Really important to have the mushroom marinated along with the carrots. They cook in the wine.
Wow, look at that. Amazing. Wow.
I love that texture you achieved. It really just comes off the fork. Flavor of the wine in there.
Yeah.
The sauce is amazing.
It's so rich.
It's so rich, and
There's so
you
much
saw-
going on.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Now I understand why it takes 24 hours or longer to make. And there's so many different notes as you're eating it. With each bite, you notice something more and more. And the protein really does soak up the sauce quite well.
That's what we try to do here, to have people thinking, oh, I can have that every day. Oh, that tastes better than the original product. Whatever they might think about veganism, they know that this is healthier.
Yeah. We've seen the innovations you're both bringing about in vegan cooking, and I'm curious what's next. What do you think the future of vegan cuisine holds?
I think we're already in the future, Chloe and I. I think people are in the past.
I'm more inspired now to have a day off so I can come and like eat. So good.
We'll stuff you, don't worry. We'll feed you.
Really good.
Catching up with Christophe is always delightful, and their veganized Coco Avant is simply irresistible. Our final destination is the innovative Avant Garden, where vegan cuisine reaches new heights of sophistication, all thanks to the visionary owner, Ravi de Rossi. His story is truly inspiring. After learning about the devastating impact of factory farming, he made a bold decision to transform all 15 of his restaurants and bars into completely vegan establishments.
I read an article about how restaurants are some of the most wasteful businesses in the world. And at the time I had 15 restaurants and cocktail bars and they were all busy. And I just thought, wow, the average restaurant does 1,000 times more damage to the planet and to animals and wastewater and all that than a person. So I'm thinking I have 15 places, I'm doing 15,000 times more damage to this planet than the average person is. That was a big instigator, but that moment with Simon was like the catalyst. That's what really set me off.
I can only imagine being in that position, and then so incredible to have the courage you did to throw that all behind and to just make such a massive change.
There are only 8 vegan restaurants in this country, only 42 in the world recommended by the Michelin Guide. 3 of them are ours. I think we add a little bit of like cool to being vegan.
You mentioned the image of veganism has changed a lot over the last decade or 2 decades. What do you think is driving that change?
Climate change. We see it. Like everybody in this world has seen climate change to some extent, whether it's on the news or, the hurricanes, they're getting worse. And I think people want to think they're doing something. Today, I believe that the fork is probably the most powerful weapon in the world. You can literally, if everybody uses their fork smartly, and by fork, you know what I mean, like what you eat, what you choose to eat, we could literally change the world.
So good.
Oh my God. It's so good. You've got the flavor on the inside.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Because we confit for like 3 hours and
3 hours.
with mini spices and the margarita oil, so we got all the flavor they go and the mushroom. So
Wow. Oh my gosh. And the texture, it's like
really
chewy in a
chewy.
good way, but
Yeah.
it also kind of like melts in your mouth.
Totally.
Wow. You would never miss the meat eating a dish like this.
Agreed.
Right? Every single component brings something different. You're
It's like a
amazing.
nut.
This is so fantastic.
So cool.
You're very talented.
Thank you, guys.
Chloe Lewis, this is Drew Brady, our business partner at Overthrow Hospitality.
Having so much experience running so many vegan restaurants, what do you think the future holds for vegan restaurants here in New York and elsewhere?
I think you're going to see more and more places that are really just specializing in the tableside experience, the more boutique elements of dining where you're not contextualizing it as a vegan experience, you're just having an incredible culinary experience that happens to be vegan.
It seems like part of the trend right now is what you're pioneering in terms of doing creative things with vegetables and being very plant forward.
There's a place for everything, you know. I think to have a diverse marketplace for all these different vegan concepts, some that are, you know, using the meat analog products, all that does is just make other experiences that really focus on vegetable cookery more enticing.
There's a big kind of cultural norm, I guess, of people associating meat with masculinity. And on social media, there are now all the carnivore influencers. There are the men who are big and strong because they eat so much meat. How do you find that interacting with male customers? I mean, is that a barrier to people exploring vegan cuisine? Is that a barrier to them treating veganism as something they could be open to?
When we first got into the vegan space, I think the majority of our clientele were women. It was like you would walk into our restaurant sometimes and you would just look across the room and it'd be packed and it would be 90% women. Over the years, it's changed. I think men are becoming more conscious about why and what's going on in the world and about climate change. And we're also in New York, which is a very progressive, liberal-minded city, whereas I'm sure in other parts of the world, it's a very different attitude towards it. But I think it's changing, and I think it's changing quickly. But to really answer the question, I think women are just smarter than men. You know?
There's something magical about sharing exceptional plant-based cuisine with friends. If you enjoyed joining us on this culinary adventure, please follow me on Instagram at Chloe on Bleecker. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to Localish for more exciting food content. I can't wait to see you at Chloe.